Ladies and gentlemen across the galaxy, we made history today. We have footage that I was able to do myself of soloing the heroic Sith raid with one team. All due to Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. My goodness, be prepared to have your minds blown. This is the first ever a team getting this high of a score, yet alone soloing the entire Sith raid with one team. Supreme Leader Kylo has been outshined by Rey in terms of PvP content. But let me tell you, Kylo Ren, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren's ceiling is much higher than Rey's and is able to go and do some crazier things when it comes to raid content. I'm going to break down the strategy. I'll talk about the lineup as well as show you the mods at the end of the video. Now, some people are going to split hairs. I made a little misplay at the end. I should have done the basic one or two more times. Basically, though, this is a solo right here with one team. You're going to see the footage in a moment. I made a little bit of a misplay towards the end, but this is basically my second time trying to raid with this lineup. Speaking of this lineup, let's give a quick shout out to Moogle as well as the Discord server. Moogle and his guildmate from Royal Phoenix reached out to me over on Discord. They told me this lineup that they're able to come across with the First Order Discord server. I took this lineup, fine-tuned the strategy even more because as you see, they were only able to get to about 25% of phase 3. I took the lineup, fine-tuned it, and this is what we got right here. I'll show you the mods towards the end of the video, but let's go ahead, start rolling the footage. It's insane that we have a team that can make it this far. Just before we started talking about the strategy, remember where we started. We remember when you got your first 100,000 damage. Remember when you got your first million damage. Remember the amount of time it took. We have a time code in the top left-hand corner, which matches the speed. I fast-forwarded the footage. This whole solo run took 24 minutes. There are some lineups in the past, just to get a couple million damage would take more time than that, a lot more setup. This is a very easy lineup to adapt to. I am no Sith raid expert sitting there crunching numbers. I'm decent at it. If I can make this happen, you guys will be able to as well. So let's break down this strategy. We'll break down character by character. We'll talk a little bit about the phase runs. And again, at the end, if you're curious about mods, I'll show it to you. Really, the only important mods are Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, making sure you're jacking up his damage as much as possible. But of course, you want some speed on characters like Hux, Sith, the First Order Officer, as well as Thrawn. So let's first talk about the strategy in phase 1. Phase 1 is actually so easy, especially because Kylo Ren has an AoE ability that cleanses the team. You're able to get the minimum amounts of annihilates as possible. I believe Nihilus only had 2 opportunities to annihilate, and if you'll notice, we easily got out of phase 1 with this strategy. So why was my run more successful than the others who were showing this, who tried out this lineup? Mainly because I was a lot more liberal with giving Kylo Ren as much turn meter as possible. The footage, I'll leave a link down below to Moogle's run if you want to see where I originally saw this from when they reached out to me. You'll see there the difference here. I just kept spamming as many turn meter opportunities to Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. Hux feeds turn meter over to Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. First Order Officer feeds over turn meter, as well as some offensive and tenacity bonuses to Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. Thrawn fractures, slows down the Sith triumvirate, as well as feeding turn meter over to Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. Traya simply gets the isolate, prevents Nihilus from getting buffs when he's attacking, trying to rip the buffs off our team, and also reduce the cooldown on Thrawn. So 1, he gets more fractures, and 2, he gets out more turn meter swapping capabilities. That is the overall strategy. There's no special counting. There isn't anything else that's special. Just keep feeding turn meter to Kylo Ren because his stats are going to exponentially climb. And you notice the beginning of the run starts off a little slow, but soon it goes up, 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 because you want to make sure you're stacking up his siphon stacks as much as possible. Middle ability gives out a ton of siphon stacks, also dispels buffs, which is kind of important when you're going up against Traya in phase 3. And then you want to make sure you're spamming your AoE ability. I know we're going into phase 2 right now. Let's stick to phase 1 to talk for a moment. Phase 2 is actually very straightforward. The AoE, yes, you can't reduce the stats of the opposing Sith raid boss, but there's 2 parts to Kylo's AoE. The second part of Kylo's AoE increases his stats for however many stacks of siphon he has himself. So as your stacks of siphon grows, so will his stats, and especially when he uses AoE. This is why Kylo Ren's able to get his basic to go up to about 4 million plus damage, because his AoE just juices up his stats. And the AoE is also important because Nihilus, for each debuff on your team, you're able to decrease his cooldowns when he uses AoE on his annihilate. All you gotta do, Kylo Ren is so fast, it's not hard to do this. Kylo Ren, right before Nihilus does his AoE, you want to make sure you spam Kylo's AoE to make sure you get rid of all the debuffs on you, so you slow down the amount of annihilates that the Nihilus gets. And then when Nihilus gets off those 1 or 2 annihilates in phase 1, it's actually insane to think that we're able to do this still, Gary. I can't believe it. When Nihilus is about to get an annihilate, make sure you're using Unbreaking Will to make sure you prevent someone from dying off. So most likely you want that to go to First Order Officer, Hux, Trey, and don't worry, yes, they'll lose their health, but they regain their health so quickly back, so it doesn't really matter. So that's really the main strategy in phase 1. Keep feeding Terminator to Kylo Ren, which is kind of the constant theme going forward. And make sure you're always using that AoE when you have the opportunity. Time it out right before Nihilus's AoE as well. And that's really it. Fracture the Nihilus. Make sure you put Isolate on Nihilus. Boom, you're good to go. Phase 2, you're going to notice already that there's a couple of downsides. You're going to most likely lose Hux at this point because, as you know, when you're getting bonus Terminator on your team, Kylo Ren's unique ability decreases your survivability on your dark side characters. That is the main drawback of everything, and Hux is going to be extremely frail. A couple of bad things, though. Kylo's stats, his siphons go away when you enter a new phase. You have to start all over again. His stats go back to wherever they were at the start of the raid, so you don't get to keep carrying those increased stats throughout all the phases. And it's unfortunate that Hux doesn't live by the same principle. His stats do not reset when you go into the next phase, so he's going to be extremely frail, and you're going to most likely lose him at this point, but that's fine. You're still running with 75% of a ship basically right here, and you're going to keep going forward. The strategy is the same, and in phase 2 is a lot simpler because now you have Cycle of Suffering on Kylo Ren. As you know, Cycle of Suffering will increase your damage output even more on top of all the stat increases coming from the Siphon, the AoE. So Kylo Ren's able to easily get through phase 2 as well. And we're able to make sure we didn't lose anyone else besides Hux going into this third phase here. Now, phase 3, I gotta be honest, it was accidental that I was able to get through all the phases. I was expecting to kind of stop around here, kind of like how Moogle did, but no, we just kept on going. Phase 3, basically the strategy I went with was just keep doing the same thing. Feed Terminator over to Kylo Ren, but we ran into a little problem because Kylo Ren got isolated. Out of all the characters, I was really hoping that Traya would get the isolate because at this point, you know, we kind of got everything going well. She's just kind of standing there just throwing up her isolate. We would have been fine if she would have gotten isolated by her clone self over there, but we got the Kylo, and there was a couple problems. First Order Officer could no longer pass over the turn meter to Supreme Leader Kylo, but luckily Thrawn, being the clever character that he is, he's able to still swap turn meter with Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, keep giving him those extra turns that he needs to be getting out. The great thing about Thrawn compared to First Order Officer, Thrawn is considered a turn meter swap, and that also does not negatively impact your team. It's not considered bonus turn meter like First Order Officer or Hux, where it reduces your max health. So Thrawn's not penalizing your team at all, and he gets through the isolate. That is another important reason why Thrawn is on this team, because in case this worst case scenario of isolate getting on your Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, you're still able to move on forward. Furthermore, in this lineup, I didn't even know what I was doing. I was not expecting to get this far. I decided to use standalone on Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, and he was able to take several turns and get everyone out of the whole standalone stealth and still just keep on moving. Eventually, the isolate moves over to First Order Officer. Kind of the third worst thing. It's not as bad as getting isolated on Thrawn or perhaps Supreme Leader Kylo. I was still hoping it would land on Trey, but still, we were able to keep moving forward. First Order Officer became dead weight at this point, unfortunately, but luckily Thrawn and Supreme Leader Kylo were able to keep it going. You keep doing the same thing. I mean, the strategy is still the same, going through all the phases. Give Kylo Ren as many turns as possible, whether it's Hux, First Order Officer, Thrawn, and then make sure you keep stacking up those stacks of Siphon. Use the AoE, increase your stats, and again, each phase, you're gonna notice it starts off a little flat, and then it starts curving up, and then boom, the damage starts jumping up drastically to the point where his basic is gonna be doing 4 million damage. Nothing too special here. And the other great thing is Kylo Ren's middle ability. As he stacks up his stacks of Siphon, he can pull away buffs. So when there's a foresight or something on one of the sabers, he's able to dismantle those buffs so you can go ahead, follow up an AoE, and clear it out. Kylo Ren's AoE is just so nasty for clearing out all the minions or all the sabers. And as you're noticing, at the end of the video, or at the end of this phase, he's able to just do some crazy damage. We have 650 stacks of Siphon. Kyle's gonna do his basic. He just chopped away at 13% of Treya's health. And then we're moving on into phase 4. Phase 4 gets a little tricky. Again, I made a couple misplays towards the end. I know, shame on me for doing the first solo run of one team and running into a couple of issues. We only had basically 2 characters going into this phase. Thrawn's going to be lost fairly quickly. You're going to have to take a little bit of each strategy from each phase we've done so far put it together, and it's actually not going to be all that bad. I actually found phase 4 to be easier than phase 1 and phase 3, in my opinion. The difference here is that Nihilus is not going to be able to get as many Annihilates. He should only get 1 Annihilate because he's not going to have as many targets to decrease his cooldowns for Annihilate. We only have about 2 people that he's reducing his cooldowns from, and all you got to do is just time it out. It's going to be hard to control the debuffs here of Kylo's AoE because you have Pain, Cycle, Suffering, and you can't just easily cleanse that with Kylo Ren's AoE capability. But all you got to do is just make sure, you got to really make sure you pay close attention to those cooldowns in the top right-hand corner, ensuring that you're timing out everything, because you want to make sure you time out Unbreaking Will on a character other than Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. And here, Trey took that for us. I was kind of hoping Trey would die off a little bit earlier, because once you get into phase 4, I'd much rather have Thrawn, First Order Officer, just constantly feeding Turn Meter to Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. If Supreme Leader Kylo Ren gets Annihilate, you got to restart or your run's just completely over. Keep defending him, and then basically now you only get 1 Annihilate. The strategy's the same. There is no special sauce going on here. Keep stacking up your stacks of Siphon, keep increasing your stats, get rid of the minions, and eventually it's just going to keep on scaling upwards with his damage. That's basically the strategy right there. This is my second attempt at this lineup. The first attempt, I was able to get into phase 3, and then I tried it one more time, and then I just got even more liberal with the turn meter swapping, because when you first try out this lineup, you're like, oh, I'm too scared to give turn meter. My team's going to get crippled. Don't worry about it. Just keep feeding turn meter nonstop. The lineup is all about Supreme Leader Kylo Ren just going crazy. Just give in to his tantrums, let him go to town, and that's basically it. Wow. This is big today, guys. This is big today, and I wonder how this is going to translate moving forward into the future. We know there's a new raid coming out for Galaxy here sometime later this year. This is probably going to be a very important team. I also have footage. I don't know if you guys care about it. I'll make a video if you want to see it, but Supreme Leader Kylo Ren on full auto with just Hermit Yoda can also full auto the AAT raid. If you guys want to see that, I'll make a video on that. That definitely is cool and all. Not nearly as impressive as this right here, because we've never had a team get through the whole entire Sith raid. We're wrapping up the phases right here in phase 4. I made a little bit of a misplay. I should have got the full clear, but I forgot to first off remove the isolate off of the Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. And then secondly, I probably should have started using the basic, because the basic does more damage compared to the AoE. If I would have just done the basic a couple more times, remove the isolate, we would have been good. But there you go, guys. That is your first team in Galaxy Spheres to solo the heroic Sith raid. Hux with his turn meter swapping, his mass assist, and get Kylo Ren to assist, his extra basic damage that he grants from his leadership. Supreme Leader Kylo Ren being the beast that he is, increasing his stats throughout the whole entire raid. First Order Officer Thrawn mainly feeding more turns to Kylo Ren. Thrawn with the fracture to slow down the enemy. Trey with the isolate to prevent buffs going on the enemy, as well as reducing the cooldowns on Thrawn so he can be the master calculator that he is. Let me show you the mods real quick, guys, as we're wrapping up here. Really, most important mods are just Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, making sure you give him as much offense as possible. Give him an offense set with critical damage triangle, as well as an offense cross at the bottom. That's really it right there. That was really the main thing. The other characters I modded mostly for speed. Hux got a lot of speed. First Order Officer, a decent amount of speed. Thrawn got a decent amount of speed. And Traya, I didn't even remod her. I just brought her in from how I modded her for Geos. She had crit avoidance on her. Wasn't even the most ideal mods in the world, but she had some decent speed on her. She wanted her to get as many opportunities to get isolate on the field. So that's really it, ladies and gentlemen, across the galaxy. Man, let that settle in for a moment in terms of how far we have come in Galaxy Heroes. If you're someone that prefers dominating raids over dominating PvP content, you want to have Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. That is the people. Rey, she might be bonkers. She might be outshadowing Kylo Ren in terms of PvP, but in terms of the PvE content, long distance marathons, you're going to want to have Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to share this big moment with you. Again, big shout out to Moogle, First Order Discord server, because this is their lineup that they've come up with. I just simply was able to fine tune it even more. Like if you did enjoy the video. Comment down below on this momentous occasion for the First Order, and be sure to subscribe so you're not missing out any of the fun tips, tricks, guides, and all the other awesome stuff we do here on the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Gary, roll the outro for these lovely people. Peace out, everyone.